evening. I'm Warwick Moss. More than 20 years ago, Kerry Walton found a doll under an abandoned home in southwest New South Wales. The house was said to be haunted, but that didn't worry Kerry at the time. However, as time passed, the doll started to take on a personality of its own. Kerry Walton began to feel himself falling under the spell of the grotesque doll, rumoured to have been made by wandering gypsies. From the dark and mystical days of Eastern Europe 200 years ago to the 20th century in Brisbane, Australia, a menacing gypsy doll, meticulously carved with every attention to every detail. The piercing eyes that somehow seemed to see all. The wig, plaited from real human hair. But was this effigy crafted with love, hate, or sorrow? This doll, some say, is possessed by the dead.
When we first got him, yeah, I was petrified, you know. The night I got home, I left him in the lounge room, and halfway through the night I had to go and put him back in this bag and put him under the house.
Possibly possessed by the dead, and maybe, just maybe, very much alive. Let's go back just a fragment in time, to more than 20 years ago, to a deserted farmhouse in an Australian country town. Local legend has it the house is haunted, but 23-year-old Kerry Walton is bolstered by a youthful enthusiasm that overrides his fear.
And I was sort of under the house and with a torch, you know, still a bit frightened about going under there, and I shined the torch on this fella, and I thought it was a little kid, you know, and I bumped my head in the head, on the joist, and then when I went over and had a closer look, there he was.
Driving home with the doll that night, Kerry began to have second thoughts about this piece of buried treasure he'd uncovered in that old haunted house.
When it was dark, every time a car went past, it looked like the doll was moving. I don't know if it was the lights, but that's what I put it down to.
That was the beginning. Who knows where it will all end? For more than 2 decades, Kerry Walton and his family have lived with this bizarre and mystifying relic from a bygone age. An age of witches, potions, and gypsy curses. Even in these enlightened times, some friends have fled in terror. Some swear its eyes change colour. Others are certain the doll moves unaided, as Kerry tried to explain in this interview from the early 1980s.
Has he affected other people the same way?
Oh, lots of people. How many people like him?
Kerry's family weren't the only ones to sense something strange in the doll. Randolph, the family dog, attacked it on sight.
That film was shot more than 10 years ago. This is what happened when we taped a similar scene with a different dog just recently. A simple case of provocation. Natural canine fear. Not so, says Kerry Walton.
All dogs that's ever come in contact with this doll has tried to bite him.
Then came the day years ago when Kerry and his family decided they had to part with the doll. They were desperately in need of money, and they'd been offered $400 by a local shopkeeper. Kerry had sealed the deal by phone and was delivering the doll to the new owner.
Couldn't get him out of the car. No way. I just don't know why. I just could not take him out of the car. And as I said, we were really desperate. But it was something was saying, no, you know, it's like don't take me or something like that.
Like it or not, the Waltons were stuck with their gypsy doll. The doll that seemed to have powers no one could explain. It was this tantalizing mystery that set Kerry off on a voyage of discovery that would take him back more than 200 years. A voyage via science and seance that would provide some answers and pose new questions about the doll's ancestry.
I took it to the Australian Museum in Sydney, and they went over him and they had a look at the nails on the bottom of his soles here, and that's how they dated him, about 200 years old.
200 years old, handmade, probably from somewhere in Eastern Europe. That was the scientific explanation. But who was the woodcarver, and what were his motives? First, an American psychic offered to try to unlock this secret from the doll's past.
And he said that the guy that made this doll made it in remembrance of his son that was drowned.
Then came a second psychic in Kerry's hometown of Brisbane in Queensland. Keisha became fascinated with the doll, its history, and the American psychic's theory. She organised her own seance and says she travelled back in time to a tragedy in Europe. A tragedy Keisha felt was still present in the doll today.
He was sad, certainly sad. There is some sadness there, but sadness because, as we came up with, the drowning of a child somewhere. So that kind of sadness. So sometimes the doll becomes a child.
Keisha, too, noticed this attraction to water, the link to the drowning child. A link that in April 1981, she attempted to explain to an audience at a Brisbane shopping centre.
In broad daylight, in the shopping centre, thousands of people walking around, I told the story of the doll, pulled the lever, the curtains pulled back, women screamed, one woman passed out, somebody else threw up. Now you tell me, those people, at night time, yes, I've sat in ghost houses, I've stayed there all night, and I know that that night itself has an effect, but not in broad daylight, in a shopping centre with lots of noise. Those people were really scared, and the reason for that, he didn't like being there. He didn't like being made an exhibition, if you like. He didn't like that.
Somebody's sitting there very quietly. Someone's died.
There was also this appearance on the television programme State Affair. On screen, Keisha seems to communicate with the doll, seems to have some kind of rapport with him. But off-screen, before the cameras started rolling...
Yes, well, we brought the doll to my office, and we sat him on my lap because we were trying to figure out what was the best shot. And the doll wriggled. That was the first time, my first encounter with him. When he wriggled in my lap, just like a child wriggles to get settled in a mother's lap. So he wriggled. And of course I was terrified, and I said, this doll is wriggling. And the guy said, oh, come on, you know. And then when one of the guys said, oh, come on, this is impossible, the doll, we would swear, turned its head. It creaked, the neck creaked, looked at the cameraman, the bulb blew.
A 200-year-old doll. A television light bulb exploding. So what, you may well ask? Well, more than 10 years after that first television encounter with Keisha, just the other day, in fact, we were taping with Kerry Walton and the doll. We just got to the part where Kerry tried to sell him, and...
So I put an ad in the paper for him only for $400. He lost a light.
Another exploding light bulb. Just a coincidence? Keisha has other ideas.
Well, I think it's because he was saying, oh, here we go again. These are these cameras, they're going to ridicule me. A memory. You and I have memories. Why shouldn't he? He is a real person. His energy is real. He has the energy of someone trapped in him. And he is real. So he would feel the emotions. If someone is ridiculing him, he gets angry. So I'd say that here he recognized cameras again, he recognized cameramen, and his mind would have gone back to the time when they ridiculed him, so he would have made it blow. There's no other reason. There's no other explanation.